Okay, hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello, Nat Mossart, how are you?
Hello, Matthew. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you.
Feelings
Yes.
off?
Yeah, I think both been busy over the last few weeks, haven't we? Is it 2 weeks
Wow.
since the last one came out? Or
2 weeks, yeah.
yeah,
It
give
doesn't
people a
feel
break.
it doesn't feel that long though, does it?
No, it doesn't. Well, that's that thing, isn't it? When you're busy, and for me, when you're getting older, time just flies by, doesn't it? I'm putting like meetings in my diary for like June and July. You know, when people suggesting meeting dates and they're saying, "Oh, well, what about back in June, July?" and you think that sounds ages away. And then you think, oh, it's only a few weeks.
It soon flies around though.
Yeah. Did you have a good
Easter?
yeah, I was just trying to think what holiday was it because it was Easter, then we've had a bank holiday as well, haven't we? So yeah, did
Yeah.
you have a good Easter?
Yeah, we had a lovely Easter. Got loads of decorating done in the house.
All right, okay. So I'm guessing that didn't scratch the creative itch, did it? Or
No, do you know, painting the house is totally different to painting on a piece of paper. You can't throw it at the wall,
I was
can
going
you?
to
Or like,
say, didn't you
it's
let your
still,
artist put
yeah.
down on it and come up with some strange and wonderful interior decoration?
Well, I would, but I'd probably get kicked out. I could only imagine the stuff I could
Like
paint on
Mr.
the walls.
Blobby's bedroom.
Sorry?
End up looking like Mr. Blobby's bedroom or
Oh,
something.
probably or
Not
worse.
that I know what that looks like. It was just a random thing that came to
Yeah,
me.
Matthew, how do you know what Mr.
Yeah,
Blobby's bedroom looks
yeah.
like?
It's all
I
rumors. It's all vicious rumors.
need to explain this now. You're going to have the viewers wondering.
That's my next book. Okay, so yeah, you've been really busy, but you don't know what you actually did.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how I feel. Like I forgot.
yeah, I think it's well for me. It's like the kind of domestic stuff, because with the kids being off, I say kids, I mean they're
Mhm.
like 17 and 14, but I basically just kind of giving them list places. They're that age, they tell me what they're doing, and I'll drop them off and pick them up and whatever. It's quite tiring. So I just got bits and pieces done in between. But yeah, I was like, I haven't done anything, but I've actually done quite a bit, and it's quite got a few naps in on the sofa in between for
Some
recharging.
granddad naps.
Yeah, I
Well,
know.
I built up a huge skip all by myself, which I was rather proud of.
All right, what with?
So for the past year, say year and a half or something, we've been like decorating, getting new carpets in, carpeting all the stairs. So you can only imagine things like stair carpet, bedroom carpet. There was rat cages. There was um, bed frames. There was like literally everything was around the side of the house ready. And I kept saying to John, we need to get a skip soon. And then we kept adding more to it. So we're like, we'll wait till the weather gets a bit better. I was honestly so scared to move all the rubbish in case there was like,
I was going to
God
say
knows
you get
what in there.
a new family of rats.
Well, I was hoping, I thought I could adopt him, but no, unfortunately, there was only a load of spiders in there.
Oh,
So,
lovely.
but I managed to fill the whole thing, and I was like,
That's
really, it
impressive.
was so sunny though, so it was nice because the weather was gorgeous to do
Yeah.
it in.
I thought you were going to say little stuff like old bike wheels and rusty cans and
No, they'd be in the house, Matthew. Get it right.
yeah, you don't get rid of treasure like that, do
No, this was stuff that even I thought was rubbish. So I mean, it's rubbish when I say
you?
that.
Yeah, so there's no further use for that then.
There was no going back on it.
Right. Sounds like a very productive break anyway. And yeah, so back to the creative world and some art chat. So what have we
Yeah.
got, what have we got this week?
So we've got a question from YouTube, and it is, so I'll ask you this question.
Okay.
Um, how do you feel about making art for yourself and art for others to see?
Oh, well, I suppose right, whether I'd make a distinction between the two is, I suppose,
Mm.
because um I'd say the bulk of what I create first and foremost, I create for myself.
Yeah.
Um, there's what I'm working on at the moment that's for my son, and bits of it, you do it because you know someone like it, and then obviously you've got your commissions, uh,
Yeah.
which is a different thing. But yeah, everything I create for myself first and foremost, and I share everything that I create really, and I
Mm.
don't, I don't know if that's a modern world thing, where it's like social media. If you don't share it, it hasn't happened. I don't know. But no, I do like to share what I've created, and it's one of the things as well. Like, I think one of the things I really like about social media is like when things come up in your memories. And
Yeah.
recently my daughter said to me, "Oh, it just came up." The first painting that I'd done because it was one that I did for her. Um,
Oh,
so
I remember that one.
yeah, well, so she must have posted it, and
Yeah.
it came from the memories, and it's like, wow, flipping heck, a year ago, like so much has happened since then. So yeah, so I suppose,
And
yeah,
just think how far you've came in that year as well.
I know, yeah, I know,
Been quite a journey.
it has. It has. I'm going to need a bigger house soon. I'm well up there. I'm still finding a little bit of space on my first staircase, but I have expanded into uh the wall on the second floor. So
You
yeah,
need to build the house up.
yeah, possibly, yeah.
I
Um,
really need to start a pattern with some of mine. I've got so many, and when I was painting the landing, well, glossing the landing recently, we've got like it's hard to describe. Do you know when you get them bunkers in bedrooms? It's like a box. You usually get it in like your box bedroom.
all right, okay, yeah,
It's like
yeah,
above
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
stairs.
yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what you'd call it.
No, I know what you mean,
We
yeah.
we had a loft conversion made, so now we've got like the bedroom's being made smaller, and the it's like the loft stairs go up and we've got the bunker below it. We call it the bunker. Who knows what it's called? But I literally store all my big canvases on there. But when I was glossing, I started carrying them into my son's bedroom and he was just like, oh, mama, way. And there's absolutely loads. I didn't realise how much I had till I started moving it. And then I was
Yeah,
thinking, I really need to start getting rid of some of this because a lot of it I've like clung to. It
yeah.
needs to go. It has to go. So I've got more room for others.
So what are you going to do with it?
I actually don't know. I mean,
Donate
some of
or
them,
auction or give
I'd
away or
probably,
sell or
I think I'd probably put like, I have been thinking about giving a few away on my page. Um, then there's an option of hiding a few in the park, like I do with my wood
yeah, yeah,
pieces.
yeah. I
And
think
also just popping a few like on my website at a lower price as well, just to get rid of them a bit quicker.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it's just I did recently. I'd done it was meant as a background, but I never ended up using it as one. So I took that canvas and painted something else on it the other day. So
All right.
you can do stuff like that with stuff you're
Yeah,
not happy with that you've done
yeah.
before.
Oh, that's good. Is that one you shared or is that
Yeah, it was the one of, do you know, the lady and she's
yeah,
sitting on
brilliant
the
that.
tree trunk.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant that. Oh,
Oh, thanks.
right. It's gonna sound weird, but like, there's just certain details that you notice sometimes on a piece that just stand out. And
Yeah.
for me, on that one, it was the skirt. It was, sometimes you capture because it looked like you captured it in a way that made it look like you can imagine it moving.
Oh,
You know what I mean? The
yeah.
way it was flowing, I guess. I don't know. There was just something about it that, it's something. Like I think it looks real. You could imagine it. I could imagine it move. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but it just really stood out that. And then from there, like all of the different color and detail in the background, or expression, and that capturing a feeling. I suppose that's the is that look kind of relaxed and
Yeah.
just something you capture. I thought was fantastic. That.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much.
All
That's a
right.
lovely compliment.
All right. Well, so not necessarily the best articulated, but you know what
I
I
know
mean.
what you meant. You explained it better than what I could. And Pepper, you're not coming on my knee during this podcast this round.
Oh, so in terms of the back to the question, what would
Yeah.
your answer be to that one?
Um, so how do I feel about making art for myself and for others to see? So, I feel quite so like you, I'll make pieces that are for myself. But for me, because I use my artwork as like a type of therapy,
Yeah.
and often you'll see a lot of deep thing. I posted one yesterday that I'd created of a little girl holding a like a book with a drawing on it,
Oh,
and she
no.
looks really, really sad in the face. And that was quite a deep piece. And I created that for myself, but I will always share it because
Yeah.
I feel as though, like we've spoke about before, if it can help somebody else
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
see themselves in it, or I don't know, like make them feel like they're not alone with feeling
Yeah,
that way.
yeah,
And like, what it meant for me, it could mean something totally different to somebody else, but they could
yeah,
take something from it in a positive way. Now, a lot of my pieces, when the deep pieces are fairly sad pieces, it's stuff that I would like think about from my past or something that's
yeah,
happened or something that's made me feel in that way. And I like to create it because, like I've said before, it gets it from me onto the
yeah,
page, onto the piece, and it makes me feel better. But
yeah,
I don't want that piece to then just be sat in a drawer somewhere. So, what I like to look at it as, if something bad's happened to you and you can create that on an artwork and capture that in a moment, then for me, it's like you've turned a negative into a positive because
yeah,
it's like you've felt that for a reason. So you're
yeah,
able to like what's the word? Like honestly paint that
yeah,
from
yeah.
your heart, if that makes sense. So
It does.
I I don't know, I feel quite vulnerable sharing stuff like that, if I'm totally
Yeah,
honest. But I also feel proud that I'm able to share
yeah,
it because
yeah.
I suppose there's a bravery in sharing your vulnerability, I suppose.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. The that whole question of vulnerability is something that, like you say, I think art again, fantastic way of expressing that, and the and it illustrates that point of being able to have strength in being vulnerable. Like vulnerability
Yeah,
is seen as and particularly amongst men, and I think about it in terms of my work around mental health and people being afraid to be vulnerable. And one of the things
yeah,
I do that always goes across really well is because I use boxing to help people to understand. And one of the first points I always make is that if you start boxing, one of the first things is that you've got to become comfortable or accept that you're vulnerable. Because
yeah,
every time I throw a punch, I'll give the example of a jab, then I'm open to be countered. Now, if I could bring it straight, keep my shoulder back there, then I'm minimizing my vulnerability, but you can't remove it. Now, if I bring my
yeah,
hand back here, then I'm wide open. I'm very vulnerable. And it's that, and there's always like any thing in life, there's a balance between risk and reward. Yeah, I can cover up and shell up and I won't get hurt, but I'm never going to win anything. So,
mm,
and again, it's like, I suppose, with your artwork, I mean, that step to sharing stuff, no matter what it is, I mean, that the first piece you share, full stop. I say first piece. I mean, for some people, I've reading a book about Elvis Presley recently. He was sick with nerves before every show, and like, but it's that, again, having the strength to move beyond those feelings because of, and again, whatever the motivation is, whether it be to help other people, to gain that kind of interaction with others through your work, or to prove something to yourself, whatever it is, it's that's the thing. We all experience vulnerability. We all experience these negative feelings. It's what you do with them, and that
yeah,
how you, again, I think art's brilliant as a way of turning it into something. It made me want to ask you something actually, because and I know we've had this conversation before about, not on the podcast, but
yeah.
about, well, we might have done, I don't know. But anyway,
Forget.
about where so many people think if you share, I would say negative stuff, because again, negative's a judgment thing. Something can be
Yeah,
sad and upsetting, doesn't mean it's negative. Um, But I think sometimes people think, and I've had this where, when I was writing and working my way through kind of stuff around depression and divorce and things like that, a lot of people seem to think that by doing it, you're kind of miring yourself in it. And it came up on a program I was running yesterday that we're talking about writing as a way of helping. And this thing about a fear of, you almost like you're reinforcing those negative things.
Right.
And I thought it was quite interesting that because I think a lot of people do have that view that
Yeah.
well, almost like just forget it, just move on from it. Whereas for me, it's if something's there,
Yeah.
again, creating something out of it, that, like you said, it gets it out, it changes it, it
It
doesn't
does.
root
Yeah.
it further or bring you down.
No, it's weird because, and I mean, whether everybody's like this, I'm assuming there might be, but as you know, we talked about, I posted it on my page yesterday that I've just been
Yeah,
diagnosed with ADHD now as well as autism. So for me, it's kind of like, is it the ADHD part of it that holds on to them feelings a little bit and dwells on it more? Because I know that is a sign of it,
yeah,
and it's part of having that, but it's I don't know, it's like something can have happened years and years ago and it'll be as raw as it was
yeah,
then, and I
yeah,
could be watching TV or I could just be hoovering or walking the dog, and then I'll suddenly think about it and it's there and it just
yeah,
eats away. And for
yeah,
me, it's just get it out on paper, paint it, draw it. I mean, years ago I didn't know this, I didn't really use my art in that way, and so I was kind of stuck with it there,
yeah,
and it caused a lot of issues for me. And so since I've started learning to get my feelings out within my artwork, I mean, it doesn't have to be a picture of me. It could be a picture of anybody, a random person. It could be absolutely anything.
yeah,
But if it says what I want it to say, then for me,
yeah,
that's done the job. And I think it's not about wallowing in self-pity or anything like that. I think it's just about being brave enough to
yeah,
share.
yeah,
And I suppose not everybody wants to see that sort of thing, but at the end of the day, I just look at it as in maybe there's some people out there that would like to see it.
yeah, yeah,
And when I first started posting them, I mean, I'd had it said to me by family members, maybe you should paint happier things because who wants to look at something sad? And it did make me a little bit worried about sharing them, if I'm
yeah, yeah,
honest. And I was thinking, oh God, are people going to think I'm like a proper sad, or, just all sorts of
yeah,
feelings
of
and
course.
thoughts. But I pushed through it and I thought, do you know what? No, this is my art page. It's
Yeah,
for my art. This is why I've done this. I wanted
yeah,
to document my art journey, so to speak. And this is a part of, why is sad art any different to happy art? And I just think sometimes the sad pieces are the ones that hit
oh
people
yeah, yeah,
in a
absolutely.
way that the happy pieces
Yeah,
can't.
that the something you said there, um, I'll just remember it in my old brain. But that about feelings, a saying, I don't know if it's a saying, but anyway, something I kind of, again, I say a lot on my programs because I think it is a big issue. It's about feelings aren't right or wrong, they just are. That
Yeah,
and yet people will often tell us how we should feel. You shouldn't feel this. You. And the issue isn't, you can't tell someone what to feel because
yeah,
you feel what you feel. The question is what you
exactly.
do with it and how you manage it and and not shutting down your feelings, but actually
Yeah,
recognizing and expressing them or managing them, whatever it is. Say, boxing's a great way of managing certain feelings because it again involves discipline. Art is the same way because you can focus. And, and one of the things I've found, so through and I don't know if you will experience or have experienced this in terms of your diagnoses and obviously you've only just had the diagnosis, but obviously part of who you are for a long, long time. Uh,
yeah,
the so with regards to depression, the common one is, well, what have you got to feel miserable? It's like, no, I'm not miserable. I've got depression. It's a different thing. And it's like, so again, you shouldn't feel like that because they feel they've got it worse, is the option. And then
yeah,
with regards to grief is another one. As you know, I lost my partner coming on for a year and a half ago.
yeah,
And again, people have a view of how you should be feeling, where you should be at. What, and it's like again, there isn't any shoulds or rights or wrongs with
No.
how you feel. It again, but it's about what you do with it. Yeah, it's one thing if you're feeling really sad and low, and that affects your ability to function, to be a parent, to then. And again, I'm not saying, and again, sometimes, if it's depression, the reality is it does affect you like that. So again, you should never be made to feel bad or guilty for it, because that's the other one. Well, how can you be like that? You've got kids looking after. Yeah, I know I do.
Yeah.
You think that makes me feel even worse? Um, but
But
it's
nobody has the right to tell you how you should or shouldn't feel,
exactly,
or how you should deal with something that you've gone through.
exactly.
Everybody experiences things differently in their own unique way, and everyone's got their own unique way of dealing with it. And
Yeah.
I think the way you've dealt with grief has just been, it's honestly, it's been amazing and very brave as well.
Oh, thank you.
And the way that you're trying to keep a memory going and the things you've tried to achieve. And achieved, with the exhibition that's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
referring to. And the fact that you've, unlocked this, like, you already had a creative side with your writing, but you've also unlocked a huge creative side of you that you were unaware that you had. And that's been your way of expressing your grief in your own way. And
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's amazing what you've done.
Oh,
It
thank
really
you.
is. And I love the way you've described the boxing as well and how compared it to
Oh,
feelings. And that's a great
well,
way of putting it.
see, this is what I do. This is it is that anything, almost anything, any issue, anything, I'll come up with a boxing kind of metaphor for it. I'm great at that. So
I
that's
can't say I've been boxing very often.
you
I
say
did
it.
go to boxing. I can't say I've been boxing very often. I did go to boxercise with John like many,
All
many
right,
years
okay.
ago. And it was probably the worst experience of my life. My arms almost fell off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder than it looks. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, it's but I mean, and to be honest, I mean that's another thing, isn't it? It's about how you present something. Like say I use boxing to engage people in thinking about depression in a different way. And I suppose that's again the role of art. It
Yeah,
translates those feelings into something that people relate to it in a different way. And it's that, when we're talking about feelings and that like you say, people can't be saying to you, you should feel this, you shouldn't feel that. Because and it's that thing about needing to be seen and heard, and that's a really powerful role that art plays, isn't it? That oh, they must get it. They
yeah,
see me because that's how it feels, and it
yeah,
and it's a gift to be able to, to share that and to do that. And I know, for me, and I'm sure it's the same for you, that there's nothing more powerful and satisfying than when someone, yeah, anyone could say, oh yeah, it's brilliant, it's good. Yeah, of course, that's really nice to hear.
yeah,
But when someone tells you particularly why it touched them, you know, it's that knowing you've had an impact on a person,
yeah.
and
It's
it's
very
so
moving.
powerful.
It's very moving when, I mean, I've had comments on mine before, like, this reminds me of a time when this happened to me, or this is how I felt during this time of my life. And
Yeah,
I've had people who don't feel comfortable commenting, like sending me inboxes and
yeah,
saying,
yeah, yeah,
thank you for sharing that piece. I really felt like I could connect to that. And then they would tell me about the times that they've had that they didn't feel comfortable sharing,
yeah,
if they've lost somebody and, they've gone through difficult times. And it's nice that somebody feels that they can come to my inbox and talk to me in such a
yeah,
confidential way.
yeah, absolutely.
And feel that they can trust me enough to share that
Yeah, yeah,
information with me. It feels quite a privilege to
yeah,
to be receiving these sort of comments and
yeah.
messages from people. Um,
I'd say and I'd say that it does go beyond the pieces themselves because it's that for someone to open up, they have to feel comfortable and safe with you,
yeah,
and that's that thing, isn't it, about the community you've created around your work through your groups, through your page, that it's not just about your work,
mhm,
it's about you, your work as an extension of you and who you are, and again, the different parts of yourself that you put across on social media. Again, so people connect with you and with your work in a deeper way, I guess, because
yeah,
it's not just. I suppose they see,
See
link it
little parts of my life.
yeah, with
It,
who you are, how they see you, and
yeah,
um,
it's funny you should talk about that actually, because I have had it said to me by quite a lot of people, like not from a page, but like people who are in my family, friends, and they've said to me, like, you're not making your art page about art anymore. It's you're sharing stuff about diagnosis, you're sharing stuff about your dog. You're sharing things about collecting rubbish and putting it in the skip, and they're saying like it's not all about artwork anymore, and it's not most art, and it should be about artwork. And I disagree. And I think once over, I was a bit scared to share other things other than art, and I did worry that people might think, oh, well, I'm here to see art. I don't want to see her doing this, that, the other. But I found it that a lot of people seem to enjoy seeing
oh
other
yeah,
parts of my life, and it's nice to be able to share things.
yeah,
It's because it's not always about artwork. It could be that I've gone somewhere that's really pretty and there's like a lovely
yeah, yeah,
scenery, and that could inspire me to paint something. So it's about the journey, and it's about the
absolutely,
person that you are, not just what you are as
yeah.
as an artist.
That's it. It all connects, doesn't it? And
Yeah,
you just made me think there. I know with like with certain music, I've always been a big fan of music, and there's been people where I've really not liked them, and for whatever reason, they just haven't. Might be
yeah,
someone loads of people like, oh, you like this, and it just doesn't. But then there's been a few, but where I've read an interview with them, or seen an interview or something, or even just heard their song, but in a different context, where it suddenly makes sense, and it's usually something about them as people that all right, I'm gonna
yeah.
give them a chance actually. And
That, that's so true. And it's about people, and we're all guilty of it, aren't we? But people are so quick to judge people by what they see immediately that they don't take it. Not a lot of time they take the time to get to know somebody, to
yeah,
be able to know how you feel about that person.
yeah, yeah,
And I've done what you've said there, where I've thought, oh, I don't like him. I don't mean, and I don't reckon much of, and like
yeah.
we're all guilty of doing it. Oh, I'm not too keen
Oh,
on him on the telly. But then, like you said, you see them on an interview talking, and you're like, do you know
yeah,
what? I judged that person without even knowing who they were.
yeah, yeah.
And I think letting people know your personality and who you are as a person, rather than just what you're doing
Yeah.
online, I think it's important to be honest, and it really is.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're looking at it from a commercial point of view, I mean, I know, I see, anything that I sell and um, is a bonus. That is, I didn't start with that in my, well, it was the last thing in my mind when
Yeah,
I started. So, but I mean, even if you're looking at something from a point of view of sales, as they're saying, is people buy from people,
they do.
and they're not just buying a product.
Mm,
Um, Again, when you know the story behind something, when you know who created it, that's it. And it's again, it's like music. There's certain people like bands where whatever comes out, I buy it. I don't have to
yeah,
hear it, it's just them, so I buy it. And it's that because you're invested in them. Uh,
yeah,
and I think that I mean, social media marketing again. I've had to learn a lot about that through my other stuff, and to say about building the know, like, and trust factor, because people don't and it's one of the myths about doing things online. And one of a business course I was on put this across really, really well. They said it's like, so when you
was
start,
this the Etch course?
say again, sorry.
Was this the Etch course?
No, it was one before that, but that
Oh, right,
yeah.
okay.
So yeah, shout out for that for any Teesside creatives. That's brilliant. Um, but no, it's that because you can reach a lot of people online, and it's like, so you almost think like people can be disheartened if they put something up and they don't get a load of interest or it doesn't sell straight away. But again, like selling, it's like a transaction. There's a relational element to it, and
Yeah,
this. but it's like, so if you just put someone up and said, buy my stuff, so that's just going to someone in the street, say, hey, buy my stuff. They'd be like, you know, and you have to, and it's like, you talk about that kind of getting leads and warming them up and all this kind of stuff comes into it. But it's true, things don't just stand on their own. That's a brilliant piece
Yeah,
of work. I'm good. Because let's be honest, there's loads of brilliant artwork out, loads of fantastic. What makes
yeah,
someone buy that rather than that? And it's usually either it speaks to them in some way specific, or
yeah.
again, there's something about that artist, and it's all getting into the whole sales cycle is very interesting. But fundamentally, the
It's
first
true
part of that
though.
is always that, and goes right back to that first question that
Yeah.
creating something initially for me. Um, but yeah, I'm going to shut up for a second because my brain's going off. I can say that. I can say that. No, don't shut you down.
Well, do you want me to ask the other question that we got
Yes,
in on Messenger?
yes.
1 second. Right. So, have you ever had times where you've had to stop creating and why?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, whether I'd had to, I think there's always a thing about, and did we talk about this on one of the art, like artist block, and when you
Yeah.
I think that's one thing. I think that then that the sense of feeling you've had to stop creating for some reason. I have had that, not with my painting, because I suppose that's still relatively a new thing, and I've got loads of things I want to paint. Um, so yeah, I've never stuck with things to do. I think with my writing, um, yeah, and I'd give kind of two for instances of that. So the first one, it links to what we were saying, was because it was very. So I started writing. I was going through some stuff. I'd been divorced. I'd struggled with my mental health, and I just started writing about it. And so again, going back to that vulnerable, open, and you're open to judgment and all of that. And and I was asked a question about, and it made some people feel uncomfortable, like people close to me, not just randoms. Um,
Mhm.
and that for it kind of made me question why I did it, and because what was said, and it go again, it's interesting to go back to that last question. Said, well, if writing helps you so much, well, you can still write it, but why do you have to share it? Why do you have to put it out? And I had to really think about that because you know that people will make their own assumptions about why you're putting stuff out there. And you made the point about pity, that. And I used to say, like, the last thing I want is someone to feel sorry for me.
Yeah.
No, just no. Like, um, but so it really made me ask it. And I came to the conclusion, and I only stopped writing for a few days, but I just started and it was just pouring out me. I was writing, and I stopped. And then the next thing I wrote was something less personal or less.
Did
It
you stop because of the comments that were
Yeah,
made by them people?
yeah, and
Right.
it was
Okay.
so. And the next piece I wrote was about Rocky and how Rocky changed my life. So it was light-hearted, but it meant it's still right.
Yeah.
But I realized that the reason I put it out, because again, because I thought to myself, it's not like I want people, oh, look at me. Yeah.
No,
But
but I don't see it like that. I see it as in you've had an experience in your life that you've wanted to write about to like similar to how I do my paintings. You've wanted to get it out onto paper. And I think it's important that things like this are shared because I mean, you don't know how many people, oh, the saying is you don't know who is watching.
yeah,
And for all
absolutely.
you know, somebody in a different country might come across your book, someone down the road, it doesn't matter where they're from, they could live anywhere. Don't know why I mentioned living anywhere, like, but yeah, they could pick up your book, find it in a library, order it on Amazon. We are going to talk about your books very, very shortly, by the way. Yeah, and they could be going through something very similar to
Yeah,
how what you were going through when you wrote that book, and
yeah,
then for them to sit there and read it, one, it makes them feel less alone.
yeah,
Two, they can really relate to what you're saying, and it makes them feel like, well, he's got
Yeah,
through this.
yeah,
Maybe I can too. And
yeah,
for me, it's what your book is doing is it's screaming advice to people who are reading it.
yeah, and that. So thank you for that. I mean, and it's funny because when I started writing it, it was, first and foremost, it was for me.
Hmm.
Um, and but I knew, like I say, I knew it'd resonate with other people, and that's I've always been someone that if I can help other people, I will. I just something I like to do. But it was like going back to that thing about pity and whatever else. It's like by sharing it publicly, it was like I had to make something good of it. I had to turn it
Yeah,
around. I had to find something positive in it because I wasn't just because I didn't just want poor me, poor pathetic
yeah,
man. You know what I mean? It wasn't, it's like shit, and I'm going through a shit thing, and I'm not going to sit and pretend all hunky dory because it isn't. But it won't always be like this. One of the things that this might hurt really a lot at the moment, but today I've learned this, and that can help, and it was that, and I ended up saying to the kind of people in question, I said, look, I have thought about it and I didn't write anything because I wanted them to know that I'd listened and that I did care about how they felt about it. But I said, I have to do it. I can't, I have to do it. I said, so,
yeah,
if we can agree that, you don't have to read it and I won't talk about it with you. And then they said, oh no, I think it's really good. I'm like, oh, okay. Weird. But even then, but that's it. But there's certain things can strike that chord that makes people feel uncomfortable. But the funny thing is as well, because I wrote the piece, like I said, in the meantime, I just wrote a piece about Rocky and how Rocky changed my life because I was working in boxing. Well, I still am, but I mean that was when I was
yeah,
went to England boxing. And funny, and someone, it was only about I'd only been writing for a month or so. So it was early on, and then someone who'd been following me up to that point had messaged me and said something about how, oh yeah, that it just doesn't. I can't remember the exact words, but he's basically saying what you've just written seems very throwaway, and it's just not up to the standards of what you've been writing. So again, it's an interesting, and I didn't
right.
take any kind of
So
offense.
you wrote more like what people were actually wanting to read more of was the stuff you wrote that was honest and
Yeah,
from your heart. And
yeah,
do you know
absolutely.
what? Listening to you talking there, I just picked up on something,
Okay.
and I thought when what you've done when you've done your writing is you've gone through a pretty shit time, and you struggled with it. It's been bad. You've written something about it, and you've probably felt when you've written that your life has just gone downhill, and it probably rock bottom. And so what's happened is you've wrote this book, and this book has helped you climb to a
Yeah, yeah,
different
yeah,
stage of
definitely.
your life because you've gone from
Oh yeah,
somebody that's just been divorced to now an author,
yeah,
which has given you such an achievement in your life. So by doing this book, I think it's given you lots of positivity, and
yeah.
it's helped you grow as a person.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one of the best feelings, was going to a bookshop and seeing it.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
that must have been an amazing feeling, that.
yeah, it was, but you know what? It's like it's funny. Recent now, when was it? I was at saw something I got that many different things. It was an event that was talking about men's mental health. I know where it was. It was at Sunderland, their Foundation of Light conference. And so they do something called Game of Two Halves, which is our mental health. And at that conference, they were talking about men's mental health. And this particular one was saying about, it was really interesting. It was about kind of evolutionary stuff stuff about men kind of genetically or more like kind of evolutionary. But it was talking about how two of the biggest things that, cause men to take their lives because the was problems with work and
Yeah,
finances. Yeah, and then it goes right back to the role as a provider,
yeah,
and also relationship breakdown. And that made me think about how having written about divorce and as being a bloke that wrote about that,
Yeah,
I don't think I appreciated maybe how, not blow my own trumpet, but how needed that is. I mean, and that's a
it
lot of
is.
the feedback that I got from people when because I wrote it probably coming up for 10 years ago now, or 9 years ago. But anyway, and particularly a lot of women would say that it's really interesting and good to read it from a man's point
Yeah,
of view. Um, and one of the things that's very scary around men's mental health, and say those two things as factors, is that men will often take their own lives without ever having spoken to anybody about it.
yeah, they do,
And
and
that,
it's such a higher rate. Men, the suicide in men is such a
yeah,
high rate compared to women, and obviously women do too. It's not just like men.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
it's facts that it's a
yeah,
higher rate, and like you've said there, the pressure that's put on men. It's you know working, relationship breakdown, and all these pressures. While society makes men feel that they can't discuss the feelings, they can't
yeah,
express how they feel. And what you did talking about divorce and mental health in your book, it was probably really refreshing for other men to
yeah,
see that and read that because you're breaking the mold, so you're breaking the mold really. And just while we're on this topic, I just want to give a little shout out of appreciation to Andy's Man Club as well, because
yeah,
I've done work for them in the
yeah,
past to
yeah,
raise money for their cause, and the work that they do with with lots of men around the country is absolutely amazing.
yeah.
And
I know.
our local ones in Stockton, I don't know the address of it, or else I'd say on here, but I can put a link. We can put a link in the.
Yeah, is it in it's in Roseworth? Is it Roseworth Community Centre or something like
It
that?
might be. I
Might be, but
don't
anyway,
know. We
yeah,
can pop a link in, but
yeah,
Craig runs it. Craig Simcox, and he's an amazing person, and he's done a lot for the charity. So just giving them a little shout out
yeah.
of
And
appreciation.
so I'll shout out there as well to one of our followers, Tony. Tony, who
Yeah,
because I know he's involved, isn't he, in Andy's Man?
he is. Yeah.
And he posted something just the other day. Actually, it was fantastic how his some of his work was used in one of their poster campaigns. It's
Oh,
absolutely
was it?
brilliant.
I never saw
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
He's
It's
done a lot of.
brilliant.
He's raised quite a lot of money for Andy's Man Club with his
Yeah.
artworks.
And
He's
and I
done quite a
feel
few
that
different things.
that's another thing again about kind of community and it just got and the connection. So through
Yeah,
your page. I I've kind of connected with Tony now, and then
yeah,
find out that he knows I do stuff around mental health. I know that, and again, so you have these again, it goes right back to that
yeah.
being seen. It's suddenly there's people like me, there's people that have mental health problems and they like to draw. Oh,
Do you
and
know what, as well? I only met Tony because I did a drawing for Andy's Man Club. So
yes,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
it swings around in roundabouts, doesn't
yeah,
it? It's
yeah,
amazing how the world works sometimes.
yeah. But it's that, and going back to that thing about um, the say the writing and sharing that, and I think it does go back to the initial question we were asked
Mm.
about doing stuff for ourselves as opposed to other, the stuff we share publicly. That how conscious we need to be, and I was thinking about this when I was talking about my book. We're talking about divorce, obviously there's another person involved. And that
Yeah,
was one of the things I was very conscious about, that this is my experience. Now, this is my
yeah,
version, this is my not my version, because it wasn't about. I remember one person wanted to know more about the ins and outs of the relationship. No, 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 that's not what it's about. It's personal. And
yeah.
you can share stuff that again, but you don't have to share everything. It's what you're
Well,
comfortable
exactly. There's
sharing.
certain things you can share, and there's certain things you can't. I mean,
Yeah,
I share my artwork to my page. I don't share the photograph I took of my little toe this morning and sent it to my daughter.
oh,
There's
go
a
on.
certain.
Go on now, Howie. Yes, flipping heck. You can't
I
deny the
think
world of
about.
that. Flipping heck.
There
At
was a
least,
reason
at,
though.
at least do a painting of it for us.
Yeah, little toe,
Ta
dinky
ta
toe.
yeah. Well, yeah, I'll just leave that sitting.
Oh yeah, we can't mention
I'm
that.
sure you'll come up with an artistic. Anyway, sorry, I'm going off on
No,
one
it's all right.
again.
I will say I don't just randomly take photos of my toes and send them to my kids. I will put that out there. There was a reason for it.
Yeah, we don't want to be
So,
getting lots of strange requests.
yeah, I
Yeah,
certainly will not be
questions
sending
we
toes
had
to
this week,
anyone.
Nat. Well, I've had 20 requests for photos of my toe.
Nobody would want a request of my little toe. It's the ugliest little toe in the land, and it's hardly got a nail. So no, I don't think anybody would
You
really
are
enjoy seeing
you
that.
are creating more and more demand for this photo to go in there. I hope you
The
realise.
nailless toe.
We'll put that on our on the cover for the podcast this week.
Little toe.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, sorry. Back to the point you were making when you mentioned your little toe.
Yeah. Can't remember now, Matthew.
You said about I don't know, it was about what we share and what we don't share.
Yeah, there's certain things you share, don't you? But obviously, you don't want to throw anybody under the bus and cause issues for anybody else. You know, you've got to share what your personal experience
Yeah.
is. And it's like I've talked to you about it before. I would love to be able to write a book, but there's a lot of things that would be in my book that would upset people. And so I think there's like a time that you've
Yeah.
got to do
Yeah,
it at
yeah.
the right
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Especially if the people you're going to talk about are people you can't really not name or
Yeah.
like give an
Yeah.
example of who it might
Yeah.
be. But yeah, it's something I would love to do. But talking about books,
Yeah.
we do you know what? I will just add my little part about the question that we asked
Yeah.
actually, and I'll try and make it quick, which is very
Oh,
difficult
you
for
don't
me,
have
but
to. I've rambled on for ages. Go on.
no, it's fine. So, have you ever had times when you've had to stop creating and why? And so, for me, there was a time where I was very, very close to my granddad growing up, and he had quite a lot of health issues. And my grandma had, about 5 months previous to this time, had passed away. So he was on his own, and I used to go down and visit him with the
Yeah.
kids on a weekend, and I'd go through the week as well on my bike when the kids were at school. Anyway, there was a time where I was supposed to go and visit him, and as you know, I don't really do commissions now. And I
Yeah.
think this is one of the reasons as well,
Yeah.
really put me off. Um, but I'd had a commission to do for somebody, and I only had, I think, one day left to finish this commission because they wanted it as a gift for somebody's
All
birthday.
right.
So I was under like a time limit, which, as you know, with the issues I have, I put very much pressure on myself. And
Yeah.
maybe if I'd have known then what I knew now, I would possibly deal with it a bit differently. But I was trying my best to get it done. And I cancelled my visit with my granddad, and I sent him a message and I just said, "Hi, granddad, just letting you know that I might not make it down today because I'm really trying to finish this portrait." Anyway, he called me up and he was quite upset with me, if I'm honest. He was quite a character, my granddad. I always compared him to Fred Elliott. He would sound just like Fred Elliott. He was from Huddersfield, but the accent just like,
Yeah.
yeah. So he had a way with words, let's say, and he was not very pleased that I'd cancelled my meeting with him. And so I said to him, "Well, I'll come tomorrow." And he's like, "No, you can't come tomorrow. I'm at the hospital tomorrow." And he was really angry with me. And I remembered feeling like really upset that he got so angry
Yeah.
because it's not like I would often cancel my visits with him. Anyway, the following day, I never went to see him, obviously, because he'd gone to the hospital. But then on the evening of him coming back from the hospital, he'd gone to bed and everything. And then we found out he'd passed away in his sleep that night. So for me, I'd gone through such a really, really dark time where I was blaming my artwork for me not going to see my granddad. I'd finished the commission already before this, before I'd found out he'd passed away and I'd handed it to the person, but it stopped me from drawing for a long, long time. I don't think I did any drawings for over a year at that time.
Oh, really?
And I found it really hard to like connect back with my artwork because of how angry I was with my art, if that makes sense. And then after a while, because I'd got myself in such a state over it, and I was like thinking, why did I put my art first? Why did I not think of my granddad more? I mean, obviously I loved my granddad.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And then I thought because I had a time limit and I'd agreed to do this artwork, so it was a very difficult situation for me at the time. And then after thinking about it, I thought, "Do you know what? My granddad loved seeing my artwork. I
Yeah,
used to
yeah,
go around there with my pictures and show him
yeah,
what I'd done, and he used to be, oh, I love that. That's brilliant. And I thought, would my granddad really want me to stop doing something that I love so
yeah,
much? And I felt so guilty going back to it. But I did. I went back to it, and I've been pretty all right. I had a little blip in lockdown where I stopped creating for a while, but then I got back. So it's like twice in my life where that's happened.
yeah,
But it just made me realise that sometimes, and quite often, I think, like, again, we're all guilty of it, we can put things first before our family. And these are like, obviously, it's all right us sharing all the real happy, positive parts of art, but there's quite negative parts of being an artist as well. And I think it's, I, at that time in my life, I put that commission and me finishing that commission off, like finishing it off before me visiting my family. And so it prevented me from seeing my granddad before he died. And not just that, he was angry with me as well. So I was really upset. But the good thing afterwards that I did find out was, obviously he had a mobile phone, and my mum got his phone afterwards. He got his belongings and things, and she'd looked at the phone, and we found out that on the evening that he'd actually passed away, he'd actually tried to call me, but for some reason the call hadn't shown on my phone. So I don't know if my battery had gone, but
right,
I never knew he called me.
yeah,
And but it was evident on his phone he'd called me, and that was quite a while after. So that made me feel a little bit better, thinking,
yeah,
well, he's tried to ring me, probably because he's felt a bit guilty for
yeah,
having a go at
yeah,
me. Because my granddad was one to speak before he thought quite often, but it did make me feel better to know he tried
yeah,
to make it
yeah,
up to me. And I
yeah,
think it's just so easy to put artwork before your family. And one thing my friend Dave often says to me as well is, can you make this meeting, or can you make this, there might be an exhibition. And I'll say, oh, well, I would, but I've got, he's like, no, family first. Family is
yeah,
always first. And I think it's so important to realise that. And obviously, I think everybody knows that, but it's so easy to put something else first and not
yeah.
your family at times.
It's it's difficult, isn't it? I think. I mean, that's obviously a very, obviously very, very sad. Yeah, it's a very sad series of circumstances, isn't it? And
Yeah,
and how
but
that
it's probably
connection
a valuable
is
lesson.
made. Yeah, but I think. See, I know, but I think by the nature of engaging in something creative, and also probably the type of people we are,
Yeah,
me, you. I mean, I'm guessing this will apply to a lot of other creative people, and I don't know if
yeah,
I'm right, so tell me if I am or not. But you become very absorbed in your work, very
you
absorbed
do.
in what you're doing, and I've become conscious of, you know, 2 or 3 hours have gone by like that, and I got
Yeah,
messages that, oh, I haven't replied,
yeah,
um, and it. But it's difficult, is because like at any given moment, different things take priority. I always think, and particularly with, and when terrible things happen like that, we can look at particular things that day or the day before or whatever that we might really wish we could have changed, or we make us feel bad or guilty, and but I think relationships are measured by, that wider context, isn't it? Of, obviously, from what you describe your relationship with him as, and how much he loved your work and stuff. So,
yeah,
within, and within the nature of that commission and the date it had to be done by and all of that, there's obviously a lot of other factors. But when something like that happens, I mean, all the logic in
yeah.
the world just goes out the window, doesn't it? It's how you
It
feel.
does. I mean, I suppose anybody in that situation might have done the same thing. It's one of them things where you've got something to finish. You
Yeah,
promised you're going to do it for that
yeah,
day. You can't. Oh, I can't do it. I'm sorry.
yeah,
But it was just the fact that I think you're always with situations like that. You're always wondering, what could I have done differently?
yeah,
Could I change? Should I have said something? Should I have gone round there and later on in the night when it was late? Not that you'd be up, but you can ask yourself all
yeah,
sorts
yeah,
of questions, but I suppose it's taught me a valuable thing is it's like you said, it's the dog. It's so
That's what
easy
that
to
whining.
it's so easy to get engrossed and like absorbed by your artwork that it can take
Yeah,
priority over other things without you realizing it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it is very important to kind of, I mean, I'm not one to schedule my stuff because I
yeah. Same,
wouldn't
yeah,
be, but it's like finding a time around your family that you can do
yeah,
it. So when John's got a week off, like he had last week, we went out and we went, out places for dinner
yeah,
and stuff while the kids were at school. And it was nice. And although I really wanted to paint and things and draw, it was nice to have that time away from art as well. And I
yeah,
think you've got to have a healthy balance between the
yeah,
two things.
yeah, definitely. And that's it, isn't it? When you when you have obviously you absorb yourself in your artwork, it's that there's times where you need to be as absorbed in fact, and it's
Yeah.
like I remember it's like with work and we live in the age we live in now about being so easily contactable and stuff and being able to put those boundaries around your time. And I used to, and the whole work-life balance thing. And I know Tom work, say it's a different thing to, well, I don't know, maybe it isn't. But I think that's the thing when someone's great because you love doing it, you're not thinking about it
Yeah.
the same way.
Doesn't seem like
But
work because you're enjoying it
yeah,
so
yeah.
much.
But I remember I used to think like, when work had imposed on my time and someone expects you to do something like in the middle of the weekend because and they're giving you no notice whatsoever, which is their lack of planning. And I remember thinking, well, if I was in a meeting at work, I wouldn't just get up and say, "Oh, my son wants to play Roblox. I'll be back in an hour." It
Yeah.
wouldn't be acceptable. So why is it acceptable for you to impose on my family time? So I think against society, we talk about the things that we value, but actually, um, and I suppose that is one of the things to reflect on when we are very absorbed in something. It is that step back sometimes. What, if I say this really matters to me,
Yeah.
actually, I need to dedicate more. And it's not easy. And I don't know, I'm at a stage with my
Yeah.
kids. I think I said at the start, where I fit around them. They tell me where they need me to
There's
take them.
nothing worse than being in the middle of the painting and, Mom, I'm hungry. Oh,
Yeah,
2 minutes. You'll
you'll have
have
to
to starve
starve
for
then.
5 more minutes. Just let me
Get a pot
finish this
noodle.
part. But yeah, this time I enjoy doing mine when there's no kids in the house and John's at work, I must say, because
Yeah,
I don't have to
yeah,
stop what I'm doing. It's my time on my own that I
yeah,
can use any way that I like. So that it's yeah, it's like I said, it's about balance, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
We need
absolutely.
to talk about your books, Matthew. So I'm first of all going to ask you a few quick questions about your
Okay.
books.
Now,
And
knowing
then
how
what
much
we'll,
I talk, we are on
sorry?
an hour.
Okay, well, do you want to just quickly go through them then? We have to talk about your books.
Right, I will try and do quick. Let's see if I can do that.
Right. So what years did you bring your books out?
So my first one, it was, let's have a look. I started writing back end of 2015. So it'd been 2017, my first
Right.
one. And then so that's a kind of a memoir, really. Something changed. And then the second one's a poetry collection, and that came out I believe at the start of lockdown, I think. So that'll have
Right.
been 2020, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, 2017, 2020. Yeah.
So what inspired you to do the poetry book?
Well, um so my first book has kind of pieces of poetry within it.
Right.
With the second one, so that's a familiar stranger. It's called, and it's a poetry collection, and that was I because I just want. I thought I'll count how many I've got, and I had well over 100, and I thought, oh well,
Wow,
I'll do
that's some
something with
dedication
them.
there.
Yeah, I thought, and and I like a new challenge. I thought, well, I'll pull it together into a collection, and it was really interesting because, well, both of them. So my something changed. I say it's a memoir. The subtitle is "Stumbling Through Divorce, Dating, and Depression," so that tells you what
Yeah.
it is on the tin. But it started off that was a blog. Uh,
Right.
So when I decided to make that a book, it it had to be kind of done differently because a blog is obviously, kind of a chronological thing. There isn't an overriding, you just write what you feel like writing on that day. And then,
Yeah,
but pulling it together into a book, it's like it had to have an overall narrative. It had to, beginning, middle, and end. And, some bits didn't fit within that structure of a book. So I had to decide which bits I'd written would be in there, which wouldn't, which I need to tweak a bit so that one piece would flow more into the next and stuff like that. So again, and then that is that thing about, I suppose, about creating again, how things can take different shape and take on different meanings. And that
yeah,
really happened with the poetry book because when I laid out all the ones so I printed them all out, laid them all out, and then it's like, well, what order are these going to go in? Because it's just me. It had to make some kind of sense to me.
like a pattern.
Yeah, yeah, there has
Yeah,
to be a flow to it. So that's what I realized I was pretty good at writing, and the thing that I feel I'm good at, and not just like writing in terms of my books, but all the writing I've had to do at work, when I was at school, assignments, I'm pretty good at that. Taking a reader on a journey, you're
yeah.
walking them through something and carrying them with you, and it's like.
I like that. What a lovely way to describe it.
But it's like it's got to flow. And it's even
Yeah,
when I'm doing presentations, there's got to be a flow to something. And if it's not, it jars, you think, oh no, that just doesn't feel right. And
yeah,
so putting together 100 poems into a book, again, it's a different thing because they go from being independent pieces, same as the blog, they go from being
yeah,
independent pieces to now is a book, it's a collection, they're a collective. And so how they relate to each other becomes important. Uh,
yeah.
that was really, yeah, I found that really interesting. It was a really
That is
good
actually interesting
experience.
because you've gone from having like individual thoughts and then having to make them into like a family of thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
I
that would be probably quite difficult to work out which ones were going where, if I'm honest.
What I did, and this is how my mind works. So then kind of break things down. So I themed them. So I put them into themes.
Yeah.
So I had living, loving, falling, and rising. So I mean, covers the same stuff as my first book. In that those four things. But then within that, it's like, right, which fit within those categories, and then right, well, how many's in each, and then within each category, it's like, right, well, what order do these best go in? Um, so yeah, it was.
Although I wish I could organise my thoughts into categories.
Well, yeah, it was. But again, it doesn't. Then it goes back the whole thing. It turns it into something else. Then, and,
Yeah.
and I really like that. And it's like when so say I love music. Like I said, I love music. I love albums, and it's like I've always loved listening to an album from beginning to end. And like
Mm.
now, with Spotify downloads and things like that, they say people it's more about kind of individual tracks and playlists. But I still
Yeah.
love an album. Again, an album with a beginning, a middle, and end. And there's certain songs that don't necessarily stand on their own, but
Mm.
they're not meant to. They're part of an album. And a song can a song can sound very different based on what songs it's surrounded by. I
I
think, yeah,
suppose the surrounding songs would set the mood for the one that
yeah,
song. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And that going that thing about taking someone on a journey. One of the things I like to do, and I do it, it's like the rhythm of what you write. And that was one of the things I loved about writing poetry. It's like, that because you get your different rhythms and some will rhyme, some won't. But that I don't know, I've got a pretty good sense of rhythm in my writing. It's like where sometimes like it's like I have a song that builds and builds. So sometimes you can have a
Yeah.
mood that builds and builds and builds, and then you'll put something jarring in to capture someone's attention. Um, and one of the biggest compliments is a lot of people said, it made me laugh and cry, and that
Oh,
because it's that,
yeah. So
going
is
back to
these
that
the
thing.
feedback that you got then?
Yeah, so that. I mean, one of the other
That's
ones
lovely.
like a warm cup of tea with a friend. I like that.
Oh,
Uh, and but to me, humor's important as well. And
yeah,
going back to what I was saying earlier about that, where the things are down and difficult, but being able to use humor, I think. I don't know. I think it's a British thing as well. We are able to find humor in lots of difficult things, and that was I don't know. It's a coping mechanism as well, I suppose. Uh,
yeah,
and being able to kind of poke fun at yourself a bit. Um, so yeah, and that thing about it can laugh and cry. I mean, to me, that's I think. Well, I've kind of done my job really. Is
Well,
that
yeah, you can't get better than that as the
yeah,
feedback, can you? That's
yeah.
amazing feedback.
But I did have one. I only had one bad review, and I turned it into an advert. It was. I don't remember it exactly. I always use it in my presentations and talks that I do. She said that what it was right. Horrible, self-indulgent raging. Uh,
Oh,
and she said something about me having a complete lack of confidence in my virility.
what the hell?
Felt like saying, "Hey, Suzanne." I don't know what book you're
Was
reading.
that a name,
That ain't what I
Suzanne?
wrote. Oh yeah, I remember her name. Yeah,
Well, thank you, Suzanne. If you
yeah,
are listening, you have helped Matthew's advertising, and
exactly,
yeah, she's done
exactly.
more good than bad.
Exactly. So it was quite funny. And it was that compare, so you do are you on Suzanne's side, or this reviewer who loves it or whatever. Uh, I thought, well, yeah, the whole virility thing, that was yeah. Suzanne, I've got a list of people here I'd like you to speak to. But no, it was the funny thing was, and my daughter still was talking about just the other day actually, telling a boyfriend about it that because I thought that flipping heck, that's a bit harsh. And fair enough, as fully entitled to that opinion. But then
Yeah.
I looked at her other reviews, thinking, is this just me? Or and she had just loads of stuff that she'd just slaughtered, right? But like random products, not just books or like products that she'd, and you're like, you must spend your whole life buying and reading and things that you
Well,
hate. Yeah, life's
she
too short. Just give up. Just say, not for me.
she's got nothing better to do, and I apologise in advance for all the Karens out there. This is not a dig at you now, but she seems like such a Karen sitting there on her phone, like making reviews. Like,
Yeah.
how sad is that? I mean, do you know what? We can look at it in another way. Maybe she is a very sad, like a genuinely sad
I hope
person. I
so.
mean,
Yeah, she better
like
be.
she can't help it but to write these sort of things.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason behind it. Who knows? By the way, Matthew, have you ever ordered scissors?
Have I ever ordered No, I don't think so.
Because, right, and this made me laugh. I was having an absolute, like, full on rant about it to the kids. So I ordered my food shop the other day and I ordered some scissors in it. I thought the scissors that we had were looking a little bit sorry for themselves in the drawer. They've had
I've never seen
some,
scissors looking sorry for themselves either, but that's another thing. We'll
well,
go on.
it's you've got to realise that my scissors that are in my drawer have gone through some real beating in life. I mean, the
Yeah,
hacked through kids' hairs in lockdown. They've been used to chop washing lines off the fence. They've been even used to chop my son's pizzas up. They've had some usage. They've
next
came
time I
in
go to
handy.
Pizza Express, I'm gonna have a pair of scissors. That's what I'm gonna do. Isn't it? They're gonna watch this. I'm gonna be cutting my pizza with scissors.
Yeah,
The
it's the
proper
way to
Borough
do
way to
it.
do it.
It's really, and we have these like long scissors too that really get through the pizza. Not them like wallpaper scissors, but really long.
Oh yeah, and they
Anyway,
just glide
yeah,
through.
well, they fit the
Brilliant.
whole way across the pizza, and you just have to do it once. But
Yeah.
so I ordered these scissors, and they came, and I looked at it, and it was like wrapped in a plastic wrapper, right? Like a full on. There was no way I mean, I couldn't have chewed my way in. And I said to the kids, what the hell? And I'm trying to get these scissors out, and would they hell come out right? It was like really hard plastic as well. There was just no way you could get
Yeah,
into them without a pair of bloody scissors. So I said to the kids, what if you were a first time scissor owner, right? And you don't have another pair of scissors, and you've bought these scissors because you don't have scissors, which is usually why people buy scissors, you know. And I couldn't get into them, so I had to get the blunt pair of scissors out the drawer to open the pair of scissors. So
yeah,
yeah, I was like really took back up why they would
yeah.
make
That's no
scissors
good.
covering so difficult to get into.
Yeah, yeah. That is a head scratcher. It doesn't make sense, does it?
Imagine a little old lady ordered a pair of scissors. And I mean, how's she going to get into them? She doesn't own a
Yeah.
pair of scissors. That's
How
why
did
she
you
ordered
get?
them.
So did you blunt scissors do the trick then?
Well, they did, yeah, they got through it eventually.
You could have got one of your rats to gnaw through it.
Oh, the rat would have probably got through it quicker than the blunt pair of scissors I've got. I mean, I won't care, but they're actually hairdressing scissors. They don't even cut hair no more.
All right. All right. Well, I'll remember that next time I need to buy a pair of scissors. Although mine are quite I'm looking over there because they've just been washed. But yeah, oh my, I've got really sturdy. They've served me well.
What do you use your scissors for, Matthew?
Yeah, nothing as exciting as yours. I haven't cut my hair with them. I haven't cut pizza with them. Uh, yeah, quite boring, really.
But
Uh,
I bet you are cutting
just
pizza
just
going forward,
open
you know.
other pairs of other scissors with them.
I bet you're chopping pizzas up now. You'll order from the local takeaway and you'll get your pair of scissors out.
I'll tell you what I do use them for. When I'm hanging my art, so I get like some frames, and
Yeah.
then so
Is it them things on the back?
I use the Velcro strip things.
Yeah.
I use them, so I use my scissors to cut the Velcro. Um, and so what I do with I'm very it's very kind of uh, well, it's not like elite art establishment framing. Uh, so with this hobby craft thing, I just turn that
Yeah.
round. So I used
Right.
to like cut a piece of card.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll just turn that
Put it in
round.
the background.
And you can't, so yeah, just turn that backwards and it gives it a white background and you can't see through it.
Yeah.
Just stick my painting on top of it with
Do you know
you.
them little things at the back?
Say again, sorry.
Do you know them little things at the back? Them little black things, you've got to like pull them all open. Oh, you've not got it on there. But you get
Oh,
like, do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Oh,
the knack you, the
right, now,
under your nails and knack,
do you
don't
want me to give you a little tip?
Go on then.
So I get a teaspoon, put
Right.
the teaspoon underneath and lift it. Works.
No, that is a good tip, that.
Mm. So you
Yeah,
thought it was going to be something really different there, didn't you?
yeah, I thought it'd be something proper like arty but no, that's a good idea, that. But yeah, they do, they get under your fingernails, don't they? And knack. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know
you
who
can use it
designed that.
also to push them back down with as well. It's handy for that
Yeah.
too.
No, that's a good idea, that, yeah. Do you frame all of yours?
So I have framed some of my drawings. I hadn't actually framed any of my canvases before though, but just recently, so the last few months, I've been going to another shout out to the Art House on Linford Road in
Oh yeah,
Middlesbrough, amazing
brilliant.
framing.
Yeah.
They framed
Michael.
some of
Oh, yeah, it is Michael who runs it.
do you know what? I can't remember the names. Actually, I'm really bad at names. I can just as they remember your name, but
Yeah, I'm terrible
um,
as well.
they were really good, and they framed a load of my canvases. And I had one where we'd hung it in an exhibition, and it was in a window, and it was right in the middle of the town centre, and the sun was literally
Oh,
beaming down, and we hadn't realised because we'd left it in the window. When we'd returned, it was all like the wood was all bent on the canvas, and it was one
really?
of my best, most favourite paintings. Yeah, and I was gutted. So the heat had just warped all the wood. So I thought this was one of my best paintings. I love the most, and I'm absolutely gutted. So it was upstairs for some time, just feeling sorry for itself, like the scissors. And yeah, and then I took it down to the art house and I was just like, please do something with it. Like the only way I can imagine it could go like nice and straight again is if we put it in like a frame. Anyway, they put a new backboard in for it, they straightened it all up and it's hung on the wall now and
Brilliant.
it looks amazing. Yeah, the frames that they've put on are lovely.
That's great. That which piece is it?
So do you know the one where it's like orange and yellow and like dark brown and it's of the woman's back?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
one. But you know what? There's something I really regret about that piece.
One I know.
And I keep wanting to do it and I'm so scared to do it. So normally I've learned over the years to put your signature small at the bottom.
Yeah,
But when I was first doing my artwork on my page, because sometimes you would photograph the picture a bit closer if there was too much
yeah,
background in it, I would do my signature higher up so it fit
yeah,
into the
yeah.
picture. And on that piece, it's like that far from the bottom, so it's like
All
quite
right.
heavy. And I've done it in orange on brown, and it's like my signature is massive as well, and it spoils
Really
it.
bug you.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm
that
every
really
time I
irks
walk,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
every time I walk past it, I think, oh, why did I do it? So what I might have to do is get some water on a sponge and very carefully
Yeah,
try
yeah.
and remove it. But the only problem I've got is if the brown comes off and shows any of the white underneath of the canvas, I can't remember what paint I used to do the brown.
You'll be able to figure it.
So I'm kind of
At least
hoping to
get
patch
close
that
enough.
bit up because it didn't look too bad when it was on a canvas, but now it's in a frame, it's so much more like noticeable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I need it gone. So that is something I'm going to have to be. And then if you see me crying on my page
yeah.
soon,
You'll have
absolutely
to update us on
devastated.
that.
You know I've ruined my painting.
Yeah, we'll get an update on that in a future
Yeah,
episode. Right on that, I think I'm going to have to leave because it's heading for school run time.
yes, yeah. I'll have to go and gather my children.
Yes, so um, yeah, I say have to. Yeah, so thank you very much, Nat. I very much enjoyed our art chat with Nat.
You're very welcome, and thank you for listening to me babble on. It's very kind of you.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you everyone for watching, listening,
Yeah.
um, for the questions and the comments and the feedback. And as always, we welcome further questions, suggestions, comments. Um, let us know if you want to see Nat's tour. Sorry.
No,
Don't,
no,
don't,
saying
don't,
that.
don't, don't,
No.
don't, don't, don't.
I mean, well, to be honest, it depends how much they're willing to pay.
Right,
No,
go.
it's
Let's
a
not
joke.
go there.
That's a
Right,
joke.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. We'll put people off by saying if the requests for Nat's tour, then I'll put mine on as well. No one wants to see that. There we go. That'll shut that one down.
You never know, Matthew. There might be a lot of other tour people out there that wants your tour more than mine.
Eh.
But what
Right.
I will say is thank you to everyone listening to our very strange and wonderful art chats, and I will put a link to Matthew's books
Oh, thank you.
in the comments of this video when it goes into the comments, the description,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
I'll pop it in the description, and yeah, maybe we should put a few links for like men's mental health charities and
yeah,
dismantle that sort of thing in there as well.
yeah, yeah. And oh, and I'll stick my own in as well. Knock out depression while we're there.
We
Uh,
can do yours, yeah, put yours in.
Yeah, but not, and there are some, there are lots of really good resources, organizations out there. I think that's half the battle sometimes is
Mm,
making people aware of that. And yeah, I think the more places people feel that are available for them to go, because taking the first step. I mean, I know I've
yeah,
talked to people at Andy's Man Club, and I know through my own programs that I run that getting going through the door for the first time. You have people that I've had people come on our program say they've been wanting to come for over a year and they've only just kind of
wow,
got the courage up. I know that with Andy's Man
yeah,
Club, you had people saying, I walked back and walked back and forth past the door and then went home
yeah.
and then yeah, it's a difficult thing, but I think nobody regrets taking that step. Whether that
No,
works for them or not. Say one of the things I always say is that we're all different things work for different people, and it's not to say this is the answer because it's about finding what works for you. and that
Yeah,
is about knowing there's different things out there, and recognizing that generally you do find there's people that get it, that understand, that aren't there to judge, and it's a very, very positive thing to be able to do. And I'd recommend to anybody that's struggling to, yeah, to
reach out.
yeah,
It's also a place where you can struggle. You don't feel bad for struggling, and you're also not having to struggle by yourself, which I think is a very I think a lot of people are scared to
oh,
struggle
absolutely,
openly.
yeah,
And I think when they realise that there's other people that go to this group who have been
yeah,
struggling, who have continued through their journey with, like, say, Andy's Man Club or
yeah,
Knockout
yeah,
Depression, and then they start to see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's important for the new
oh,
people that come to see that, and where
yeah,
these,
definitely,
the people that have been attending these things for a lot longer, for
yeah,
them to see the change and how,
yeah,
and for
yeah,
them to talk about the difference it's
yeah.
made as well. I think it helps other people feel, I think, like you said, especially in men as well, I think it helps them feel a little bit more confident about coming
Yeah,
forward and sharing things.
you know what? That's a really powerful point, and I'll be quick before I have to go. But going back to that thing of writing, that was one of the things I was conscious of when I wrote, the writing from a dark, a difficult place,
Yeah,
but it carries that much more power because I was determined that, like I said, good would come out of this, and that
yeah,
there'll be people that have followed it from the start that can, so whatever was going to come out of it, and I had no idea what, if anything, but that they'd know where I'd started from. That that,
yeah,
and it is that people can say anything, but when you've lived it with someone, when you've seen it, when you've again been through that in real time with someone, from when they're here to actually coming out the other end, it's extremely powerful. And I always say that, yeah, boxing's such a strong metaphor, but we all fight our own fight. It's like you look at a boxing, have all the entourage and everything, the bell rings and they're on their own. And that's the thing, we have to fight it ourselves, but we don't have to fight on our own. And
yeah.
that having someone in your corner, and um yeah, again, it's the strongest, biggest, toughest fighter in the world is usually being, you see I give an example, Muhammad Ali, as Cassius Clay put on his backside and his cornerman cut his glove to buy him more time between rounds. He's saying it's the best to ever do it, and he needed help. That's
Yeah,
no shame in that. It's how and then, it's that you learn things about yourself, and you can if you can come through something like that, then you can do anything.
you can. And I think it's what you've done and what you've created, like from where you started with your book, and no idea what the dog just knocked over, but I'm scared to look. There's a tub of paint down there. Yeah, where you started off as to where where your journey through and where you are now. And not only have you come such a long way, even creativity, painting, you've been writing, you're an author. Now you run a page, you're a podcaster.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah. I have to add
yeah,
that to my bio.
I know I'll have to get a bio to add it. But yeah, I think it's what you've done now, and you've took your experience and your journey, and you've created like a community now with
Yeah,
your knockout depression to help other people and to guide people along, like the way that you probably needed to be guided when you
yeah,
were having
yeah.
the same issues. I think it's amazing what you've done, and you should be incredibly proud of yourself as well.
Thank you, Nat. Thank you,
You're
Nat.
very welcome.
Nat. And
And
I'm
next time. Next time we will talk about knockout depression a little bit more as well, because
yeah.
I'd like to. We haven't really shared much about it, have we?
Oh no, but that, and I think one of the things I'm interested in, and that like anything, it's what you're comfortable with. But having you've mentioned about your diagnosis, and
Yeah,
the impact, that I think, that when we talk about not being able to separate the art from the artist, if you like, that how that has influenced, will influence your art going forward. I think that's
yeah,
something that um I'm certainly interested, and I'm sure a lot of other people will be. And you, yeah, I'm sure again, what you've already talked about with it, and will really resonate with people.
Yeah,
And I expect, I don't know any figures or anything, but I'd expect a lot of creative people will
yeah.
perhaps be neurodivergent in some way or other.
Yeah, I thought that too. And I also think as well, like I've mentioned before, one of my very close family members of the older generation, when I first told them about the autism, first thing that they said, don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was told everyone.
Right, I'll go
Because
on my page, I'll tell everyone.
yeah, because I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
at the end of the day, we're not in the Stone Ages anymore. And the fact is, these are things that have been stigmatized over the
yeah,
years.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that it's like if you've been diagnosed with something and you're ashamed of it, but then you see somebody else online who you like
yeah,
and they've just been diagnosed
yeah,
with this, you're going to immediately feel seen and heard
yeah,
because if
absolutely.
they've talked about it and it's all right for them to
Yeah,
share
yeah,
it and they haven't been ashamed and they've
yeah,
spoke about it, that
definitely.
might give me the strength or like give you the strength to talk about it more openly. And I
Yeah,
think that the
it
more we
can
talk
be a
about
good
these
thing.
things, yeah, the more we talk about them, the less stigma
Yeah,
and the more normalized they
yeah.
are as well. And I think it's important. It really
Yeah.
is.
And I think the more those individuals affected feel able to turn up as themselves, and
Yeah,
from a point of view of art and creativity, again, so much fantastic. If people don't feel they have to hide those parts of themselves, again,
yeah,
so many, again, different perspectives on the world. People who see things different, who feel things different. Again, again, that's what art's about, isn't it? It's
yeah. And I think it's interesting as well to look at art from different types of people and, people with neurodiversity
yeah,
issues too. I think it kind of, you don't see the world the way they see it.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's the same with everybody, it's the same with anybody really. But it's interesting to see the world through somebody else's eyes, and I think that's what I like
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
Well, I think that's and teases up to potentially when we're looking ahead in terms of getting guests on.
Yeah,
I think a number of these themes that we're covering, will lead to us having some really inspirational guests, and
yeah, be
yeah,
interesting that.
yeah, definitely. So yes, and I know we've already had a few people who've expressed an interest in
Yeah,
guesting on podcasts. So yeah, uh,
I don't think we're short of guests. We've got a little list going already,
yeah,
haven't we?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anybody else who wants to join the list,
Yeah,
let us know.
you'll have to do an audition. We like to see a bit of dancing first, but then once we've
I will
seen
leave
it,
the dancing to you, Nat. No one can top that. It's far too much pressure, flipping heck. You're gonna have to buy a special outfit. Yeah,
it took a lot of years to get to that ability, Matthew.
exactly, exactly. These things don't happen overnight, do they? People
No.
don't see the hours of hard work, the hours of toil and labor behind the
Yeah,
scenes that go into
I
such.
mean, I didn't just, emerge from the womb and be able to dance and shot their moves out. It took some very hard work.
Yeah. Oh no, you only need to look to recognize that.
Oh,
Right. So I was late for my son yesterday, so
yeah,
I've got
and it's
to,
20 to 3 right now, so
yeah,
I suppose we will have to go.
I shall get there. Right. Um, it's been great again. Thank you very
Yeah,
much, Nat. Thank you, everybody watching, listening, and we shall see you soon.
yeah, thank you, everybody, and thanks for the chat, Matthew. It's been
You're
amazing.
welcome. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, and same time next week.
Yes, we'll book it in.
Yeah,
See
see
you
you later.
later. Bye bye.
Bye.